Elliot Hartman was an American traveler from New Jersey. He was backpacking across Europe in the early 1950s, a few years removed from the war, but never entirely free of it. He had served in France during the final months of the conflict, and something about the country's quiet hills and forgotten villages had stayed with him. When a former comrade wrote to say he was living somewhere near Avignon, Elliot decided to find him, or at least to retrace the roads they had once marched down together. But one evening while hiking alone throughout the foothills near the Rhone Valley, Elliot lost his way. The daylight slipped quickly behind the trees, and heavy mist crept in from the river. He followed the Rhone's edge, hoping to spot a village light or sign. Instead, he saw something else. A faint glow pulsing throughout the fog, rhythmic and wrong, as though the air itself were alive. Drawn by a mixture of curiosity and unease, Elliot made his way toward it, to a town he didn't remember seeing on any map. Elliot approached the outskirts of the town, expecting quiet streets and idle life. What he saw instead was unimaginable. A town ensnared in delirium, and forces at work that no mortal should witness. He crept silently among the trees, heart pounding. Figures stumbled down the streets, laughing at nothing, crying to the air, or convulsing in erratic motions. Children crawled on cobblestones, shouting unintelligible words. The town itself had become a stage for delirium, and he was a silent witness. Amid the pandemonium, Elliot saw figures in white coats moving methodically, recording the town's unraveling. Soldiers in armored vehicles stood watch at the outskirts, silent and vigilant. It was no accident. This madness was being observed, catalogued, studied. Elliot crept through the dense forest, heart pounding, trying to stay hidden behind the thick pines. That's when they stumbled upon a figure crouched low in the underbrush, a man in ragged clothes, who almost seemed spectral against the misty moonlight. Who are you? Elliot whispered, stepping a bit closer, but keeping a careful distance. The man's eyes were wide, unnervingly clear amidst the chaos that had consumed his town. You see it too, don't you? He hissed. They poisoned the town. The scientists, the soldiers. They're dosing everybody with LSD, watching us lose our minds while they take notes. It's some kind of experiment. Elliot's stomach tightened. Why would they do this? The man shuddered, glancing back toward the faint glow of the town. They're trying to map the edges of human perception to see if mass hallucination can bend reality itself. They believe that if enough people experience the same hallucination at once, they think it'll unlock something. They're searching for patterns in the human mind, a way to harness the hallucinations for control. Some say they want to create a network of connected consciousness, but others believe that it's to touch a dimension that doesn't exist in our perception. They call it the threshold. Elliot swallowed hard, realizing that this wasn't just madness or an accident. It was deliberate. A whole town had become an unwilling test subject in an experiment that sounded like something ripped straight from the feverish imagination of a mad scientist or a cosmic horror story. What's worse is that he had just fought against the Nazis, whom he heard were conducting similar bizarre experiments. To see this happening in an allied country made him feel dizzy and overwhelmed with fear. They crept along the forest edge, trying to keep the town in view, when something impossible appeared in the center of the chaos. A cloaked figure draped in flowing Egyptian-style robes and a headdress that glimmered like gold seemed to materialize from thin air. It glided above the ground, moving unnaturally smoothly, its presence commanding the disoriented townspeople below. Then, as if the universe itself had decided to escalate the madness, strange metallic shapes appeared overhead, UFOs hovering silently in the night. They drifted in deliberate, almost intelligent patterns, and suddenly, beams of blinding light shot down from their hulls, enveloping terrified townspeople. One by one, individuals were lifted into the air, their screams echoing through the streets. Elliot's stomach twisted in horror, and the stranger's eyes widened in panic. This was no ordinary madness. It looked like some sort of orchestrated abduction. The two men exchanged a silent glance and bolted, plunging into the thick forest to escape the town's escalating nightmare. Branches slapping in their faces, hearts pounding. Behind them, the town shimmered with pulsating light, the cloaked figure hovering eerily as if it were orchestrating the entire scene. When they finally emerged onto a dirt road, the night air felt almost normal, the hum and the light of the town replaced by the quiet chirp of crickets and the distant rustle of the roan. Exhausted, they stopped beneath the faint glow of the moon, catching their breath. "This road leads towards the valley," the man whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "But my uncle's farm is down there. If I can reach it, maybe I can warn him. Maybe I can help." Elliot wanted to follow, but something in the man's tone, the trembling urgency, the desperation, made him hesitate. "Be careful," Elliot said. "They're watching everything." The man nodded and vanished into the darkness, heading down the dirt path. Elliot turned the opposite way, toward the distant outline of a railway line he hoped would lead him back to safety. The journey back was long, but he eventually made it to Paris, and then home to New Jersey. Once back in America, Elliot tried to warn others. He contacted journalists, researchers, and even government officials. But every lead he followed ended in silence. Documents were redacted, contacts vanished, and offices redirected him from one bureaucrat layer to another. Gatekeeper after gatekeeper blocking his attempts to reveal the truth. All that remained was his small, tattered notebook filled with detailed accounts. The hallucinatory townspeople, the silent observers in white coats and military garb, the cloaked Egyptian figure, and the terrifying vision of people being abducted, sucked into metallic objects by bright spotlights. Realizing the world might never believe him, Elliot passed the notebook down to his children, hoping they would preserve the story. He often confided in his son, quietly and late at night, that something about the outcome of World War II didn't sit right with him. The victories, the narratives, the documents that were always just out of reach. He spoke of the Egyptian figure, telling his son it was more than a hallucination. It was a sign, an omen of something sinister rippling through the world, hinting at forces far beyond human comprehension. In 2009, one of his sons entrusted the notebook to American journalist Hank Albarelli, who, while investigating Cold War-era experiments, uncovered declassified CIA documents corroborating aspects of the Pont-Saint incident. The papers revealed government involvement in experiments on the town's population, confirming that Elliot's terrifying account was no mere hallucination of his own. Through Hank Albarelli's research, Elliot's story, once trapped in a small trembling notebook, became part of the documented history, a chilling reminder of how reality can sometimes be stranger, darker, and more deliberate than the most twisted hallucination, and how unseen forces may have always been at play just beyond the surface of the world he thought he knew.